Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Every Day We Discuss everything to do with the market, that is the crypto market, the NFT market, and the hyper liquid market. Loaded up for this discussion today. We have the market shaking off war concerns. Bitcoin's back to around 107K, Sol's up 7%, but hype is surging up 10% on the day to $44. We will discuss it again as if we have not done already. We've also got Bybit announcing their first on-chain DEX, Byreal. This is super interesting. Maybe a Hyperliquid competitor here. Let's try to understand that landscape today. Brett will break that down. And then finally, the SEC clears Trump Media to acquire Bitcoin with $2.3 billion recently raised, with an option to raise more to buy more Bitcoin potentially. We'll get into those details as well. We've also got the latest on price action on crypto and NFTs as usual. So stay tuned for that. I have Legendary and Bread in the co-host seats with me today. But just before we get into it today, just a reminder, friends, nothing that we say here is financial advice. The market is very, very risky and we don't know anything for sure. So please proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, Legendary, it is Monday. It's the 16th of June. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
GM doing quite well. Spent the weekend on the golf course that I thought happened the week before, but it was this weekend, and got the bug for the sport. I love it. I have another coaching lesson this afternoon, so I'm going to focus on that and try to get in shape for the Modern Market Golf Tournament as quickly as humanly possible.
I like that we're just saying as if that's a thing that is planned.
Yeah, I forgot that was a thing. It's a thing. Yeah,
I guess it is. And if we just say it, then it will happen, right? I think we've had multiple people who have said they're very happy to help us organize. Shout out to Carpenter listening in. Big fan of the show, big friend of the show. I think Oxy is thrown his hat in the ring as well. I think we've got a lot of willing organizers to.
I will only participate if we do a scramble. Right? No way I'm getting out on that course with my sticks and trying to drive my own ball. It's been too long.
Okay, well, I think what we need to do first, though, Legendary, is when you told me you were golfing over the weekend, I said, "Show me the swing, show me it," but you refused.
Of course, I refused. I was playing the first time.
You know how personal of a question that is? Yeah, it's like, dude, show me your dick. No, come on.
And by the way,
I wanted to see it.
When you texted me, it was on day one, so I'm left-handed. I started out playing with my left hand, and then
so I want to see it.
On the second day, the coach goes like, "Dude, you look so unnatural in your movement. Are you sure you're left-handed?" I'm like, "Yeah, I've been left-handed my entire life. I mean, I know that with table tennis, for example, which I used to play like quite competitively, I have a very strong backhand and I can play a right forehand very well." And he was like, "Okay, try playing right-handed," and it instantly felt way, way better, which was such a weird feeling because
had you already bought your clubs at that point?
I almost had spent a nice amount on a good set, but it felt like so weird to basically, spending the first day learning all the grips and everything, and then just the day after having to rethink that, because my entire life when I was like learning sports, I was conditioned to whatever the guy is explaining, I'm mirroring it in my head. Whether it's like tennis, table tennis, and now for the first time, I don't have to do that. I just have to do what the person is saying. So I have to turn off the mirroring filter, which has been on for 33 years, and that's actually difficult.
Interesting. Okay, so the only thing I really want to know before we get into the show is, do you have the video footage, or is there no video footage?
Dude, I'm still learning to fucking hit the ball. Like, there's no swing going on. There's no video footage.
Is there a video of you doing it left-handed?
No, there's not.
You're not going to get your payoff. Yeah. Sorry, bro.
Wouldn't it be fun in like 2 years' time when you're really good to be able to look back? Like, there's some awful videos of me as I was learning, like trying to hit the ball, like absolutely horrific. But then it's fun. It's fun to look back and be like, oh, look how I used to be.
Who's the NBA player who has like the most horrible hitch in his swing? Like it's Charles Barkley. Look up Charles Barkley golf swing. It is the most hilarious thing you've ever seen in your life. He full on like stops and does like a hitch wiggle like at the bottom of his swing, and then just follows through, which is amazing for someone that is a like world-class athlete. Yeah, it's one of the funniest things you've ever seen in your life. Charles Barkley. Everyone needs to look it up. It's something you need to see.
There's different ways to go about it. As long as the ball goes straight in the air, lands on the fairway. Like, who cares?
Yeah. You know what?
Different ways to
Honestly,
slice this.
you're old enough that like maybe you're on the other side of this. One of the biggest problems with learning how to golf is you always try to overshoot. Like you think you're a
Oh yeah,
strapping young bull, so you
yeah,
overswing
100%.
and you end up, and then the 70-year-old dude just comes through and he just does this light
Yeah.
little, and then that thing goes straight as a fucking arrow, 70 yards with his 7-iron or whatever, and he beats you 9 times out of 9. It's like, yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm in the camp of, look, if I'm going to play, I'm going to absolutely whack this ball. I'm just going to whack it. I'm in the whacking.
Everyone
camp.
is in that game. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it's fun. Right, we're going to circle back to this. We want some video footage soon, maybe to be aired on the show. Right, let's get into the main stuff though today, as usual, starting with the headlines. Some of these prices are getting whacked as well, up and to the right, which is quite enjoyable. We've got Bitcoin up a couple of percent almost to, it was at 107K, just dipped beneath now. Got ETH up almost 4% to 2.6. ETH can be up and it's just 2.6. XRP is up a couple of percent to $2.20. BNB is flat at 653. Solana is up almost 7% to $156. Our favorite alt majors, we have Sui up 3% to $3.08, but clearly the headline today is Hyperliquid up around 10%, showing 9% now to $44. Obviously, it got to around this point last week, dipped down.
Legendary got his dip. He bid it at what? Was it 38, 40?
38 and 30 cents or something like that.
Yeah, nice. And you're just
There we go.
ripping.
I top lasted last week around 40 and a half. So just had to wait a little longer. That's looking pretty tasty. Up 24% on the week. Gosh. Looking very good. Getting into the other meme coins to see what's going on that side. Mostly green also. Doge is up just 1%. Pepe's up 1%. SPX, Murad's coin, up 17.5%, up 24% on the week. Again, outperforming there. Fartcoin also doing a bit better than the others, up 4%. Maybe not doing better today, but again, up 11% on the week, back to $1.25. Bonk's up 6%, Whiff's up 5%, Pengu's up 5%. A lot of these kind of single-digit moves to the green. Mog's up 10% as well. Let's see if there's anything else. Per, which is one of the main Hyperliquid memes, is up 20%. So
that's not the official one, is it? There's like an official quote unquote launched by the team meme, right?
Yeah, I think Per is that one. I mean, I don't want to get it wrong.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so Per was one of the first ones that's actually like launched on Hypercore, whereas now there's a few more like cultural memes that were maybe started off on the EVM, I think.
Yeah.
But Per is definitely one of them, and it's got a significantly bigger market cap. It's at 170. Where are we now? 171 fully diluted. So whereas the other memes could be like 30 mil or 25 mil at the moment.
It's dry over there, man. Like it's still like relative to the performance of hype, like, and within the Hypercore side of the house. Like, yeah, man, the EVM is still slow cooking. So for anyone who thinks they're behind, like if that is their game, if they like getting into ecosystems and trying to carve out their path, like, yeah, man, and fair questions whether it'll develop at all, because given like the capacity of it. Again, it's slower than Ethereum mainnet. It's like it's not something you're going to be doing Solana style degenning on. Just it cannot facilitate that, and it won't in any immediate future. So like take that into account. I know that was some of our at least my initial bearish case for like Bitcoin ordinals, right? You're like, oh, don't worry, it'll eventually like start to mirror like what you can do on other exchanges. Like, bro, if the UX fucking sucks, people will not go there. Like it's just like there is a threshold where it's too much. I don't know if that threshold is also on Hyper EVM, but like that it exists.
Very, very fair point. I want to get into that specific one and give you maybe a different angle where there's all kinds of other valuable things that could be built out as the hype price moves up. So I've got a bit of a thesis around that, which I'll share in a little bit. Getting into the rest of the headlines, though, to get people up to speed, we've got, as we said at the top of the show, market shaking off the war concerns. Bitcoin's back to around 107K, hype surging plus 10% to around $44. Bybit has announced their first on-chain DEX Byreal. Brett's going to break down what that even means and why some centralized exchanges might be entering into the on-chain DEX game. And then finally, the SEC clears Trump Media to acquire Bitcoin with the $2.3 billion recently raised. I'll be breaking that down towards the end of the show. Some notable price action aside from those memes. There's also this coin, Useless coin, which is up 17% to 86 mil. This is the latest bonk guy favorite coin, which is pumping. SPX, as we said as well, MOG and PER all double digits up in the last 24 hours. Ledge, anything we need to know on the NFT side?
You pointed out the most important things in the notable sales section. That is a couple of X-copy sales going through. Bangers and Crash at 25.5 ETH, Instabax at 35 ETH. Apart from that, if we take a look at the majors, honestly, there's not too much happening over the last 24 hours. Basically, all the top collections, apes, penguins, are mostly flat and are down a bit, 7 to 9.5% over the last week or so.
Good stuff. Good update there. I'm thinking of letting go of my X copies here, actually. I just don't know
how many. You don't tell me how many, but like, why? What's the conviction?
Why own anything other than hype at the moment? That's literally what I'm thinking.
That's the thesis. Yeah.
The guy who's revisiting that. CryptoPunks to buy hype.
Say again?
Like the guy who sold his CryptoPunks to buy hype.
Oh, did someone do that inside?
Punks
I know
plural?
Easy did that last week.
I think someone did it a while ago.
Well, outstanding trade. I think a lot of people sold their soul for hype. I sold my soul for hype a while ago. Some people did it even before. And if you look at the soul hype chart and ETH people, God, don't look at this the ETH hype chart either.
That was my pivot. I liquidated probably 80% of my ETH position to rotate into hype. I think ETH is fine. I think it's just going to be another cycle play. It maybe catch a little bit here late in this one, but
this is the thing. I've been thinking about this all the time as well. Like, again, people can believe in ETH. You can think it's good. You can think it's good. But the game that we're playing here is not just let's find things we believe in and find things which we like. It's like we're kind of playing the game of like, what's the fastest horse? Like, the fastest horse is where you want to be. And this is what I just basically learned. The previous one was like, I like ETH. I believe in ETH. And then I realized, as Solana was the fastest horse by far, the last kind of part of the cycle, like it is not fun not being on the fastest horse. And I still was in Solana. I still got some exposure and I got decent, and I got it at a decent size and I got it in a decent place. But it did not feel great being so misallocated, so under allocated to the fastest horse. Like that's I think the thing we've got to identify and make sure you try to execute at some point.
Yeah, the downside of that is like that's how you chop yourself up, right? Like if you're not careful and you're not being mindful with how and like being thesis driven with what you're allocating to, and even being thesis driven doesn't mean shit, right? You can just be flat out wrong. Like we've all been wrong in the past.
Sure.
If like you don't want to be the guy who liquidated at the bottom and then rotated into the thing that was running out of steam, and then it flips, right? Like, oh, like Adam has alluded to that in the past. Like he almost like got rid of it or dumped his ETH position like at 1800. Like he was going to be the last guy to capitulate and then up only from there. Like maybe that's the case. Maybe that just like grinds up from here. You don't want to be that guy. So like be mindful with like the amounts and how heavily and like from where you pull shit from.
It also, I guess, depends what your entry point is versus other people's. Yeah. Like it might be easy for me to say, oh, liquidate everything and go into this. Was like, well, my entry point was a different place. Yours might be different. You might, as you say, chop yourself up. So I think that's a reasonable counterpoint. Funky, your hand is raised. What are you thinking here on the fastest horse? Funk, welcome to the stage.
Jam boys. Yeah, no, I think this is the third cycle has finally been the one where I learned that concentration is better than diversification, because obviously it goes without saying most of my stuff is BTC, right? But I still love to dabble, still hold ETH and some others. And I found myself over the weekend when I had some time really starting to consolidate stuff. Like still holding Chainlink. Why? Right. So I'm just going into things that I feel are much better. So like really starting to move in and build a position in Tau, Bitensor, because there's a lot going on there that would be a fascinating conversation. But hype, same thing. Like I've been dumping ETH for hype. I still haven't. I should have done what ICO said, like just full clipped all my soul into hype back at the low. I did not do that, but I'm learning that I'd rather just concentrate on maybe 4 or 5 positions instead of having 20 quote unquote high quality projects that maybe don't go anywhere, right? Like, so I think this is very, very relevant, this conversation.
I like it. I want to dive deeper into why I think part of what you were saying is so important as it relates to hype and the further knock-on effects and opportunities. But we'll do that when Legendary has kind of gone through the various market moves and the hype thesis, or like some new theses that are being shared about it in a moment. Just to get you up to speed with everything else first, let's hit the roundup. We've got SharpLink Gaming, funded by Consensus, bought $463 million of ETH to become the second largest holder after the ETH Foundation. This is that company which is kind of, I can't remember exactly the phrase, like what's some kind of reverse merger related to Consensus, becoming the MicroStrategy of ETH, basically. So, buying a truckload of ETH there. Trump discloses $57 million of earnings from the World Liberty Fly token launch. Cardano founder Charles Hoskinson proposes $100 million of investment into the Cardano ecosystem, including buying Bitcoin. So everyone's ultimately becoming some type of.
That's the second Bitcoin one. There was it? I mean, Funky might be able to speak to it. I think I saw Polkadot was looking at like a $50 million allocation.
I think that might have been fake news. Funky, do you know if that's correct or not?
It's not fake news. What bothers me so much is that Cointelegraph ran this headline like clickbait, because there's no on-chain discussion. There's no on-chain forum, on-chain vote right now. It's 500,000 dots, so it's not a ton. It's not 50 million. 500,000 dots to DC into Bitcoin. I was the one who first put up this ref back in January. There's a piece it's called Wish for Change. Our WFC. And so I had put this up in 1394. I'm seeing bad yappers like make threads about 1394. I'm like, yo, that died. That was like 5 months ago. I was the first one to initiate this conversation as the Bitcoiner in the room. And so now they're talking about like the community is split. It's like 6 or 7 people on the Polkadot forum. This is where the nerdiest of nerds go to talk about things. So somebody in the ecosystem must have like pointed it out to Cointelegraph and go like, oh, hey, we're considering this, like, but it's literally like the same few people talking about it. I don't know why it's even a thing. I don't know why Cointelegraph pushed anything forward in terms of like making headlines about this, because I got all sorts of news over the last 2 days, and I've even had some big dot holders reach out and like, is this true? Because they're not very involved in governance. Like, no, that's not even an on-chain ref. Like, I wouldn't worry about it. And I was like, if you're really worried about it, come in. You got a lot of dot. You could crush this thing if you wanted to. So there is a slightly ongoing conversation, but I think it's much ado about nothing, because it's literally like when they said the community is split, it's like 6 or 7 people talking about this thing. Come on.
There's so much to be said about literally just saying things and that like reverberating throughout the ecosystem as a way to market shit. Like another example from this weekend was, I don't know if you guys saw Ryan Sean Adams from Bankless did his tweet of like, oil is an $87 trillion asset. Gold is a $13 trillion asset. The GDP of America is whatever, take the average, and it's $730,000 Ethereum per Ethereum. Like, we all looked at that and we go, guy, you put GDP as an asset. Like that looks a little silly, and that's hard because you shouldn't be comping that. And like, he got dunked on a little bit with us, but he's like a strong advocate for like, we need to like, ETH needs a better meme warriors, right? You need people like that. Like, this is all hard-headed Bitcoin dudes that have like, whenever it was a $700 Bitcoin, we're like, this is literally going to flip gold. Like, you need like those type of people. And like, it's $100,000. Like, you know what? Maybe you squint a little bit and you can start seeing that kind of shit. And the way that matriculates out throughout the ecosystem is this weekend, I get a Google push notification and it says from Google on my phone, people are saying Ethereum is quote unquote digital oil and are quoting $730,000 Ethereum.
Yeah,
it made it like
that's how the AI picks it up now, right?
There we go.
Yeah, this guy. Now, so like for now, if my dad sees this, you know what he goes? He goes, bro, I'm hearing things. You know, I'm ear to the ground. I think this thing might actually go somewhere, right? He has no understanding of anything, right? Like, this isn't going to work on a hedge fund manager, maybe like a little bit, because they're pushing the digital oil stuff. It's not going to work on us because we're too jaded in this industry, and like we see that and think it's ridiculous for all the reasons that we think it would be ridiculous. But someone without context, they go, why not? Well, Bitcoin did it. Bitcoin's gold, Ethereum's oil. Easy. Done. I don't know what it means, but it's provocative.
It's 100% that, isn't it? But that's why I think it's even more important to know the lines of the line of communication or the line of production for that media to get produced. So like even the small nuance, like Funky mentioned Cointelegraph. Cointelegraph, this is from a media perspective. I've researched news every single day before I write the news for the show. And I'm doing that myself. And Cointelegraph, realistically, is one where if I see them write something, and they never put a source, they never give a link to an article, and I will have to go and Google it, because there's been too many times where Cointelegraph just say things, as you say,
Fabricate shit. Yeah.
and I'm not going to pick that up for our show. Like, I appreciate that probably works in the algo and it's going to do its thing. But I have clocked on to the fact that they just say things sometimes. And
Not
so,
be trusted.
yeah, everyone has to kind of be aware of that and know and basically just how the content's being produced. Because I think
Think how much experience you built up to get that understanding, right? It's literally every day you're looking through news sources and comparing
3-4
and going
years,
like, okay, these guys are maybe but everyone else is like, dude, bro, Cointelegraph, listen to that name. They've been around forever. Why not? Yeah, very credible.
And the interesting thing is, I'll show the site for people who are kind of interested in the process a little bit. I haven't been using it as much recently, because I'm like, when people ask how I write the news, it's just crypto native stuff, man. Like, I'm just on Twitter bookmarking things. And in the end, that's better than all the crypto websites put together, because we can be faster than they can, right?
You should try Llama Feed.
I shall. But let me just show you this one, just give people appreciation of the way things are created. So this is Deep News. This is all AI generated. This is awesome. I can't remember the name of the guy who does this. He's really smart, works with AI a lot, has created this site, which is all AI generated, pulled from Twitter with sources. It writes the little summary of the article via AI. It gives you all of the sources that it, so if we go into this Metaplanet article.
So you said it's AI generated, as in
summary part.
Curation in the summary is AI generated. It is not literally faking news.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's going out looking for, I'm in the crypto section here. So it's looking for crypto related news. It then decides what is important. It then gives you a headline. It then gives you a summary, plus, which is super helpful, as I was just discussing, the sources that it's used to come to that, which is incredibly helpful. Like, this is more helpful than any other site, because you actually get given stuff, and then you can see directly, are these correct sources? Are they do they match other things that the article is saying from reputable places? And sometimes the answer is no. And so at least it's transparent, though, whereas even if the headline might be wrong or the emphasis is wrong, you can see because you can see the sources, you can say, oh, do you know what? I'm going to discard this piece of news. I don't think it's as important, because of that transparency. But obviously, to your point, no one else is going through this process, right?
Yeah.
No one else is going through that process of looking at the sources. So
if you think about that view is actually no different than just a normal query, right? Which I like. I think that's great. But that's the same. You query, hey, what's today's news in a ChatGPT? It'll give you a breakdown of what it thinks is there, and then it'll link out to where it sourced that information from, Grok and Perplexity. All those guys will do that same thing, which I think is it's the same thing, just put into a newspaper format, which I think is really good. So it's not terribly complex. It's just curated, which is great.
And it's extremely helpful for the political stuff. I remember when you showed it the first time to me. In the meantime, there's also an app which I have on my phone for that. And if you want to keep up with conflicts in the Middle East, it's super helpful, because it's pulling Israeli sources, it's pulling Al Jazeera, it's pulling European, it's pulling Chinese sources, and you can basically get a more holistic picture, because everyone has their own bias when they're reporting on conflicts like that. So for those very controversial topics, I find it extremely helpful.
Yeah, that's a great point, because it's pulling from places that are just outside of your own bubble, right? Because it's going on Twitter engagement a lot of the time. Okay, interesting. I think that's helpful to talk about that sometimes, so people get a bit of an understanding on behind the scenes, how we're coming up with this information. But just a few more bits before we get to the main headlines today, to get you up to speed. We've got Metaplanet hitting their 10,000 Bitcoin target. This one, I was kind of bored of announcing, because I guess we're going to see a lot of these. I guess it's kind of dramatic. Polyhedra price tanked 60% in seconds in a crash, the same style as Mantra. I don't know what L1 or L2 this was. It's just the classic, I don't know, the price just fell off a cliff. I don't know what market making games was going on. and I couldn't be bothered to investigate, if I'm being perfectly honest with you on this occasion. ETH Foundation donates 500K to the Tornado Cash co-founder legal case. That's good. And then a couple of social crypto updates. Backroom is a new SocialFi primitive to launch on virtuals this week. That's done by a friend of the show, Lennart, who used to be building on Blast and is now doing that. It seems like it's getting a lot of traction, kind of been compared to Friendtech, but with a bit of a twist. And then finally, CreativeBit announces their Kaito leaderboard. So more leaderboards to yap about. That's the roundup. Before we get into the main stuff, conscious that we've already half an hour in, we definitely want to get to the main headlines. Anything catching your attention, boys, before we get into the main stuff?
Yeah, the one thing I want to touch on is the SharpLink news with 460 mil ETH buy. Brett and I talked about the stock price related to that, SBET that is, and Brett went on to explain how it basically crashed and what has happened there. So I just wanted to update on that. Also following that pattern, falling off the cliff, down 70% over the last 5 days. It's hard to call it a recovery. So it is up 27% on the pre-market, but that means it has moved from $9 to $11.75.
But I mean, it went all the way down to like the sevens, right?
They just did a polyhedra. They did a mantra.
Yep.
Yeah, the lowest.
What is going on with these prices falling off a cliff?
Well, this one specifically, were you caught up on it?
Roughly. So it pumped because they announced the ETH strategy thing, right? And then, but what was the reason for the aggressive sell-off? Were these like people already holding the stock selling?
We believe it to be a misinterpretation of some financial documents where people thought that everyone who had like the insiders were actually selling, where it was just a filing requirement that just said like in a theoretical future, like if they were to sell, this is what it would look like, and it would zero out their actual shares, and they hadn't actually sold. It's like there's just a lot of misinformation, but obviously that stuff's backwards looking. So whether or not it's like people sold off because they saw that and misinterpreted it from a single thread on Twitter, or like there's other reasons, we don't know, but like that's what people are pointing to.
Okay. Fair enough, but I don't know. When you see things fall off a cliff like that, that's too aggressive for me. For there to be like that sounds too like strategic.
Yeah, it's
and
more sophisticated than that, is what you're saying.
Yeah. It's like something's gone wrong with the market making, or like I don't know. It's obviously a stock, so it's not the same as when these crypto things fall off a cliff. But like from judging by that chart, it's like straight line down. So I don't know. Let's we'll see. We'll keep an eye on it. Anything on your side, Brad, before we get into the main stuff?
Yeah. This one's a little off piste. I'm actually videotaping right now. You can see this.
Hello.
Yeah. It's kind of Kaito announced that they're doing like a push out to to TikTok and Instagram.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys saw the video from, I guess maybe it was Saturday. I had recorded something and sent it over. Or no, it was actually from the Bankless podcast where I had a snippet that I was a little bullish, or just like talking about where the future was. And the intern for Mega ETH turned that into what I've learned is called Hope Core. And you overlay it. Yeah, you overlay it with positive music and you like do all this shit. So we're experimenting with like what it's going to look like to try to post to some of these alternate platforms, expand the reach a little bit. So like I'm doing a little bit of a day in the life thing just to kind of get some stuff going. I'm just basically just recording a bunch of footage. So
that's fun.
Kaito's doing it. They're on Instagram. They're on TikTok. They're showing a little bit of success. We think it's some green ground. Like a lot. If you've ever spent any time over there trying to see like what the content is, it's dog shit, frankly. So we think there might be an avenue there.
I like it.
Yeah, Hope Core is too good. Yeah, I had not heard of it, but I watched that. And I hate myself. I hate how I sound. I hate everything, as everyone does whenever they record themselves. But like, yeah, it makes you smile. Like, yeah, it works.
There you go. I like it. Yeah, I think there is awesome opportunity on that side. How's the Modern Market TikTok account going, Ledge?
Pretty good, actually. The first shorts that we had started a couple months ago were like doing 200, 300-ish views. And we've been creeping up, and we get now, I would say, between 800 to 1K views per
nice.
TikTok that we are posting. Still, nobody's really following us on there. That's the interesting thing on TikTok. Like people like the videos, and some of the videos get 50, 60-ish likes, but nobody's bothering to follow you. But the views are creeping up.
We did a little bit of market analysis, like looking at like what does successful over there, and I don't think you can just raw clip and send over there because it's just like media news stuff. And like we're wondering, how do you represent a brand? How do you do all this stuff? And it has to be you have to curate or manipulate your content so that it's native, or it appears to be native. And a lot of their stuff is raw footage, right? It's personable stuff. It's human stories. It's like commentary. It's, you know, reviews, all that shit. So like, just like if I was clipping podcasts and dropping podcasts over there, I don't think it would do well because it's just not native content. It would be like people from Instagram doing like the daily runner, so the morning routine. Like you see people posting like morning routine shit over here, and it just doesn't feel right. It's like that's not Twitter content. That's Instagram content. So we're trying to adjust to it.
I know what you mean. It definitely requires like a slightly different aesthetic, but have a look at the Modern Market account on it, because our shorts are actually great. Like the shorts, we've got an issue where like our middle length YouTube videos are not really hitting. Like we haven't figured that out yet. But the shorts on YouTube Shorts and the TikTok stuff
It's up only
look really good. As in like they just feel right. Like we know what we're doing there. It feels right because we do have the editor. We have an editor, and they're like making it more native to the platform, and it works really well. So
oh, nice. Okay, so it's not just straight clips from our show.
They are straight clips, but we juice them up.
Inserts,
right? That's what I'm saying. Like it's clips, but like you put the overlay on it, and you
exactly.
Yeah. They have a lot of stuff going on, and we've been more consistent with hitting nice numbers. I'm scrolling through our YouTube analytics for the shorts. I feel like that was an interesting process. I think it might be interesting to share a bit more from that. So at first, when we were just playing around with shorts, it was very erratic. Like some
we were
shorts,
bad.
10
It was
views,
also
some with 100. But then you had the occasional short that, yes, of course, quality-wise, they weren't there where they are just now. But the occasional short was like still doing 700 views, 1K views. And we basically tried to like figure out, apart from the quality, like what's going on with the shorts that hit topic-wise, what are people interested in? And we managed to get like more consistent with hitting in the thousands. So last week, so sometimes shorts are lagging. So I was looking at the week before last week, so 2 weeks ago, because sometimes the short has like 10 views in one day, and then it gets 800 views 72 hours later. So the 2 weeks ago, basically, out of the 5 shorts that we did, we had one at 800 views, one at 1K, one at 800, another one at 800, one at 1.4K, and only one that did nothing, that did like 100 views, which is one way I actually thought will do well. Because it's one on like content creators and monetizing through.
But that stuff doesn't work on YouTube.
Sometimes it did though. Like sometimes when you had like numbers in there, it did, but this time it did not. So it's interesting that basically the thing that we're trying to optimize for is just getting the percentage of shorts. The percentage of shorts that hit like 1K views or 800 to 1K views up higher and higher and higher.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting conversation here. Let's keep it moving though. We want to get into the main headlines today. Yes, English, we will be getting to the Hype community lead activity in just a moment. But before that, Ledge, you just want to talk general market at the moment. Obviously, a lot of concerns around the conflict in the Middle East. I know you guys touched on it when I wasn't on the show on Friday. A little bit of an update here, then your thoughts on the market as it relates to the majors, as well as maybe moving into Hype.
Yep. I want to focus a bit on the oil price. Crude oil is up over the last week from its lows at $64-ish to $72. Did go as high as 77, has corrected down from that high, which in this case is good. And the main fear there was that the Strait of Hormuz, which is basically main export line for oil, would be closed. Iran has been threatening to close that off, but the market seems to think that this is not really the case and it wouldn't make sense to do that. There's been a bit of commentary on X as well as in the news. So a couple of things to know on that is that 20% of the world's total oil consumption is passing through that strait. So that is obviously one of the main economic factors for Iran. And export-wise, for them to close it off, A, is not a feasible thing to do. B, many experts are making the point that the strait is just way too big to be able to close it off. And most of it is not even located in Iran. It's located in Oman. So they cannot feasibly close it off. And the third thing that would make that even more difficult is that the US Fifth Fleet is stationed very close by in Bahrain and has a strong interest as well to not close off that Strait of Hormuz. If we take a look at Polymarket, that's an interesting one. So we already in the past, in May, when there's been a bit of tension, have seen that BET, which is will Iran close the Strait of Hormuz in 2025, spiking up to 25, 28-ish% even. And over the last week, that went as high as 40%. And if you were to overlay that with the crude oil chart, it's pretty much matching that peak where crude oil hit $78 a barrel and has been correcting down. And so has the percentage, the chance that the strait will be closed also on Polymarket is also corrected down on that. So that was like one of the main worries, that as a result of that escalation, we'll see a squeeze in oil price. That as a result then would lead the Fed to not be as willing to go down with interest rates. And a lot of the discussion, apart from obviously the mutual attacks, has been focused on what is happening to oil, to the oil price, and to the oil to oil exports.
What I'm hearing is ETH go up.
Oil's
Getting squeezed. Get out your longs, boys.
Yeah. All I'm hearing is the market just doesn't care about anything.
Like nothing ever happens.
Yeah, but like more so than ever. Like whether it's domestic issues in the States, whether it's European tariff fighting, whether it's even like China conflict, Middle East actives, like the market is eating up every single dip over and over and over again. And I just think we're just positioned pretty beautifully to continue the kind of rise up into the US midterms, I guess. Because I always got that's always been one of the timeframes in my mind. The back end of last year, we had very much in the top of our minds inauguration. Inauguration is like a time where we think we are going to move up. Until that, then we have to reassess. You have to see where the landscape is then. Now, for me personally, the way I look at it is, okay, fine, there's all this noise happening and there's all this conflict, and which seems to just be, people just brushing it off their shoulders. The market is doing that over and over again. And then I think moving into the midterms, obviously the economic picture needs to be painted very, very nicely by the Republicans. And I think they've already given up on, everyone has now whereas there was a little bit of doubt at the beginning, everyone has completely given up on any kind of restraining on spending. So that is something that people can tick off the worry, right? Like any kind of serious austerity that might have hindered growth in any way, that's not on the agenda. So I think, as bad as, and remember, we talk about these conflicts as it relates to the market always. Obviously, there's a lot of pain and suffering and horrible stuff going on as part of it. But it does appear that the market is not pricing in any kind of severe consequences for the market itself. That would be my thought. Legendary, do you have any further ones?
Yeah, I agree. And I had a conversation with a good friend of mine when I was talking about the BTC narrative, and I was going, I think it just shows, good chaos hedge, blah, 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 blah. And maybe I start to worry once we'll have peace around the globe. And he was like, I completely disagree with that take. I think that we just love Bitcoin. Everyone's buying Bitcoin, and we just try to fit the narrative to whatever's happening in the market. It's an inflation hedge, it's a tariff hedge, it's a chaos hedge, it's a risk on asset if it goes down. And the truth is that none of that really matters. We are just buying a BTC. This is what is happening. And that could get to a point where English was making the excellent point that goes in line with that in the YouTube comments, saying nothing ever happens, but sometimes very rarely things do happen, and then everyone is crying that they didn't take profits. So I feel like the market is way too easy to trade right now, and I don't know how long this can go on. Like I bought the Hyperliquid dip. You can buy every dip right now, and it just keeps rebounding very, very strongly and very aggressively. But obviously, this can't be the case forever. Like I start to worry when I see that I get in a phase like where all of my trades hit. Liquid launch, I bought the dip on that went up. And then I have like this brief moment where I feel like a genius. And then I get reminded that I'm not a genius, that it's just an easy market to trade. And this is when I start to be like, meh, maybe time to take some profits soon, because that can't be the case forever.
Yeah, I like that thinking. I
You know,
like
I hear the Bitcoin narrative stuff that Legendary is referring to, how like we always try to retrofit it, and you know what it sounds like morning affirmations. Like you just keep saying the thing until eventually it's true. It's like you're just like it's like the power of like memeing this stuff into existence. Where it's like, don't worry, guys, it's a hedge against inflation. It's a hedge against inflation. It's a hedge against chaos. It's a hedge against chaos. And you just keep saying all of the things every morning, and eventually like some of them will wilt away and die, and then you're like, okay, we're left with the thing that's true, and like that's just what happens. But you have to repeat it to yourself periodically, and like that's eventually like the mind virus gets out to other people, and like, you know, other people start saying it, eventually it becomes true. Like it's the whole game of memetics.
Indeed it is. Ledge, a few more things I think you had on Hyperliquid specifically, which I think could be interesting to get into. I know we obviously come back to Hyperliquid a lot, which is important, not because we are community leads, but because it is the fastest horse right now. There's a few things I think you wanted to, maybe different directions you wanted to share.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is to do with Jeff from Hyperliquid, who has talked more about HIP3, which is that the Hyperliquid protocol will support builder deployed perps. An MVP of this feature is live on testnet. And there's a couple of interesting things to know how that works. So basically what it means is that users will be able to deploy their own perps order book for whichever asset they want to do that. There's a couple of things to keep in mind with that. One of which is that deployers must maintain 1 million plus hype staked and subject to slashing if deemed malicious. Then deployers can receive fees on trades up to 50% of fees, and the
indefinitely, right?
Yeah, and the official front end will not display these order books initially. That is for safety reasons. So you have to basically be aware of where that has been deployed and go and find that for yourself. And deployment gas is paid through a Dutch auction every 31 hours. Difference is that Hype is the gas token used for perp deployments. And that's, I think, all the things to know on that. Connecting
on HIP3, yeah, that's probably, I mean, the main thing there is just, wow, you're going to be able to, people who, and when you say users can deploy their own perp markets, not, you know, me and you can't. I think you need to have a huge amount of staked Hype.
Million Hype, yeah.
To do that. So this is going to be like big entities who want to create a new novel market that doesn't exist yet. But that's huge because it gives you the opportunity to bring this new market on chain and gives you an opportunity to participate in the upside. That is not possible right now. You cannot, the cabal of all the centralized exchanges and basically any online and any trading environment, you know, it's owned by specific people. Now you can participate and you get access to the hyper core liquidity. So I think that's one like net new interesting thing. And then I think there's a couple of others, Ledge.
Yeah, absolutely. Just going to VX Crypto's point in the YouTube comments, VX is saying Hyperliquid at 44 billion market cap is crazy. This is not undervalued at all. That's topish. Market cap for Hyperliquid is actually at 15 bill. The FTV is at 44 bill. And Ansem is taking a very, very opposite view to that. Ansem is saying that the market is currently pricing how successful Hyperliquid has been as a crypto perp DEX. It's not pricing in Hyperliquid as the backend venue for trading of all assets. We've seen that that the talks that Hyperliquid is testing stock or stock indices trading on their end as well. It's also not pricing in the upside potential for an L1 that has access to that liquidity natively. And maybe as an extension of that point, it's also not pricing in the pre-compile stuff, which basically, in simple terms, would mean that hypercore and hyper EVM are like quite separated from one another, not really communicating as strongly as they could. So there's no reading from the on-chain order book, and that could also be the case in the future. So Ansem's point is basically to say that we are pricing Hyperliquid at what it is at the moment, not at what it could be and what it's building towards.
I'll push back on that with Ansem is always hyper bullish on basically everything until he's bearish the entire market. Like that's just his flow. I will routinely find myself in a ecosystem or a protocol, and then what he does is he just comes over the top and is like crazy bullish on it, and everyone gets fucking amped on it, and then like a month later he's bearish like everything in the market. But like he's always unrealistically bullish on mostly everything when it comes to specific protocols, because everyone loves to talk about that shit. And I've found that his depth of knowledge on most things that I have specialty in is not that great. Like he's good. He understands some macro stuff. He can tie some things together pretty well. But I would take all of his bullishness stuff with a grain of salt for a lot of those reasons. And then like doing like this is the successful application thing. They're not even pricing in the successful L1 application or L1 aspect of all of this. Like the market right now presently is actually starting to think all L1s are overpriced.
Correct.
All L1s are overpriced, right? So like, even though like that's still, we have to talk about magnitudes where it's like Solana's at 90 bill, Ethereum's at 300 bill, right? Like all these are really big numbers. And even relative to that, Hype being at 12 is still underpriced. And if you think those things are going to compress lower over time, it's still over time. So like it very well could get the premium associated to that go up, but then come down. But like the market's wisening up to the fact that infrastructure plays are largely overvalued, unless you're going to try to quantify this moneyness shit, which is like, not sticking very well.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. The part I agree with most is two things. Well, I disagree with part, and I don't even disagree. The part I agree with most is the L1 kind of trying to ram the L1 as into this
premium thing.
Yeah, like I'm not a huge fan of that. I don't think that's what Hyperliquid is super strong at now. I do think that EVM there'll be valuable things on the EVM, and I'll explain why in a second. But that's the bit where it's like I don't think that's the most valuable thing to speak about at the moment. The thing that I took away from Ansem's tweet, which is, well, I think we've spoken about this on the show before as well, is that it's Shoku testing indices for equities. So bringing equities on chain is going to be a big deal. And specifically, people might not know because they're not tagged in this. Shoku is the founder of Unit, who is building the asset layer, who has brought successfully Bitcoin, Sol, ETH, Bitcoin onto Hyperliquid. So I think that aspect of it feeds right into Hyperliquid's strength already. And that's the part that I would think, okay, that's going to be a big unlock whenever it's ready. That would be the thing for me to be more bullish on most immediately. As far as the L1 goes, you got to be, when you say Ansem's like overly bullish or extra bullish, I think I'm increasingly of the opinion we need to invest more with like maybe not delusional, but got to have like some imagination when we come up with this stuff. And maybe that's the way to make the most money. Like you need to be like most delusional or most imaginative.
Like saying ETH is worth oil.
Yes, I think that is required in order to make it be worth that, or to just take advantage of that opportunity, right? Because if you didn't believe that, you wouldn't be appropriately allocated to take advantage of when it goes there. So the thing that I'm thinking about the L1 is that I do not think it's super performant right now in the way that Sol was performant, and that's what I think everyone's thinking. Oh, it's got to compete with Sol because Sol took over from ETH by being faster, and people could do memes there and do the casino. I don't think Hyperliquid will be the same. The thing that I see that is getting a lot of activity, well, I don't know on a relative basis, but as hype keeps going up, that's like a lot of value that's more and more on Hypercore. People want to borrow against their assets, and Bitcoin is obviously getting sucked into Hyperliquid like crazy. I can't remember exactly the number of Bitcoin that's already got sucked over, but people are definitely, and there's caps on all of these protocols. So I don't know what the true demand of it is, but they are going to Felix and they are going to Hyperlend to unlock that capital. So when Hype is now, almost $45, they want to take it. They want to go to the protocol. They want to borrow against their Hype. And I did a tweet this morning where I said, like, it's getting expensive now. People want to unlock. I think the borrowing against Hype was borrowing even against Bitcoin. I think was pushing towards 10%, and that had been as low as like 3% for a long time. Because I think there's real demand to like try and unlock the value to then do other things, whether that's on EVM or to provide liquidity or whatever, maybe even just to buy more Hype. So that's something to watch, because I think a lot of just like some leverage in the ecosystem that you might not be immediately aware of is people who are becoming rich off Hype, borrowing against their Hype to buy more Hype. So like that's just something to keep an eye on. The rates on Felix, the rates on Hyperlend's kind of capped, but just keep an eye there, because that's something I'm just keeping an eye on. So given a bit of a bull case, but also just something to keep an eye on that might be fueling the rise up with other people just like piling in further. So those are my thoughts there. Brad or Ledge, do you want to come in here before we need to get to your news as well, Brad?
Yeah, I do. Very much agree with Brett's take. And eBrink summarized it in the YouTube comment saying L1's overpriced, liquidity engines underpriced. I think it was just important to bring up Ansem's point because it got a lot of reach. To agree with Brett to not agree with his takes too much. And I think the market, especially if you've been following the show for the last couple of weeks, has shown what they see to be valuable about Hyperliquid, and that is the perpetual perps. Like we've seen Coinbase trying to bring that to the market in the States. We've seen many other players trying to get their own version of a perp DEX going, because this is where you can make a ton of money on fees. And this is what is not existing in abundance yet, as opposed to L1s, which are pretty easy to spin up these days.
Yep. Okay. So yeah, okay, good discussion. Well, I think we did a bit of both sides there, which I think is helpful.
You ready to spin up the competitor?
I think so. Let's do it. We got to get into this competitor, Brad, and then we'll see how. We've only got a few minutes left, but let's definitely hit this out.
Yeah, we'll speed run it. So Bybit announced their first on-chain DEX Byreal. We can ignore the name for now because I hate it. What it is it's a DEX that they are basically sponsoring in a Hyperliquid-like construction, similar to Hyperliquid, where Hyperliquid has like it is the exchange, and then next to it is a DEX on like the L1 side of the house. This one is you have Bybit, which is the centralized exchange, and the on-chain DEX component will exist on Solana as a basically just a professional DEX. It gets access to the liquidity of Bybit, and then has the transparency and composability of an on-chain DEX. It's like that's basically the construction. They mentioned that they have an RFQ, so request for quote plus CLMM routing, that's basically it. And I know like we've alluded to a few other chains that are not chains, but centralized exchanges that are trying to do something similar. They're basically taking note of the Hyperliquid model of this like combination liquidity engine / on-chain composable aspect and the fees that it can generate. One thing that I think most people won't actually realize on the Solana side is that there's been the bulk of volumes recently have actually been taken over by these like hidden DEXs. Right? They're not like the front end Meteoras of the world. It's actually a cracked developer team that's spun up. I forget what the actual name of it is, but if you look at the on-chain DEX volumes, like 70% of volumes are getting eaten up by these very, very efficient, very, very professionally designed DEXs that don't even have a front end UI. It's just like everything gets routed to them because they're so great, and they usually they stick around a few assets. So I'm wondering if like that's what they're actually going to be leveraging here, where they try to spin up a basically behind the scenes DEX that allows them to actually like utilize on-chain liquidity. And then one other add-on to that was from Ryan Watkins, who's a big investor, and he just said Sex's ability to evolve into super apps is something that is underappreciated right now, because obviously they own a bunch of users. So they would be able to pretty quickly bootstrap and expand the offerings that they have as an application, or if you view centralized exchanges as an application, basically kind of doing like the reverse of what a Uniswap did, right? Uniswap started off as a DEX and then went to a wallet, now went to a chain, and like turning into this like one-stop shop, or attempting to become a one-stop shop. It's a wallet, everything. Sexes would have the ability to do the other side, where they have all of the volumes for perps, they have all of the customers, because that's the on-ramp, they have the on-ramp, off-ramp ability, and then they can slowly expand into offerings like, well, Binance is already doing a chain, Kraken's now doing a chain, like continuing to grow the pie. Their Coinbase has a chain and a wallet and whatever. We may continue to see this.
Super helpful summary. My two immediate thoughts or questions is, one, will they require KYC? I guess this is a way for them to maybe access a market that doesn't.
They didn't disclose that, but people were asking the question in the comments.
Yeah. To me, that's just the main question, isn't it? Like, is this the way that they try to get in the market for some of all of the Hyperliquid activity, which obviously does not require KYC? It gives everyone a way to access exchange liquidity without needing to KYC, basically. I think that's probably the key question, which I'm thinking about. And then I'm just kind of intrigued to see what they do there. Ledge, any comment from you on that?
I liked Barthasian's comment on the official announcement, which was just to say, use Hyperliquid.
I think, who knows? Let's see how it plays out. I think it's going to be really hard with the Hyperliquid army on the timeline now. And given how many people... Go on.
Yeah, I wanted to go back and actually check the numbers. So Solfi, SOLFI, is the DEX that I'm referring to. It came on the scene in February or middle of January, it looks like. And to date, by volume on DEX for stable swaps, it is already at 48%. The next closest is at 20%. That's Orca, and then Radium, and then Meteor's at 4%. So this thing that doesn't even have a front end, does not have a token, like it's created by a team inside the ecosystem, is eating up now almost 50% of all stablecoin swaps within the Solana ecosystem, just because it's a highly efficient DEX that is pure infrastructure.
Interesting. Yeah, it's kind of snuck in. It's stuck in there without anyone really knowing, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Well, we will keep an eye on that. The only other news that I thought was interesting today was the news that Trump Media has been approved by the SEC to start its Bitcoin buying. They have the option to acquire, or they initially had asked to be able to acquire up to $2.3 billion of Bitcoin. They are not obliged to do that amount in any way. They said they will do that in a time frame and size which they deem appropriate, but they have been cleared to do that now. They, as part of the rest of their filing, there also includes an option to buy up to to raise up to 12 billion more in order to potentially buy more as well. That is not going to take place yet. They said the company has no immediate plans to issue any securities under the shelf registration statement. So that's something that they put it on writing, but they haven't said when they will do that. So it's just the kind of initial 2.3 billion that they are able to now execute if they wish, or whenever they wish, approved by the SEC. So that is the show for today, guys. I hope you found it interesting as usual. Thank you to my co-hosts, Bread and Legendary, and thank you to Funky for stepping up with us as usual. Just a reminder, we do this every single day, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern time for 1 hour, live on X Video, YouTube, Apple, and Spotify Podcast 2, where you can catch up with via the download. We hope that you have a wonderful day. We will be back again with you tomorrow. Same time, same place, same platforms. Have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye-bye.